Hi there, Dawn McVey here. Today we're talking about adding debossing to our stamped images, which is a great way to add some extra texture to our cards without adding any actual bulk. So let's get right to it.
Okay, so I did the same technique on this card that I made for the countdown last month, and I used the Modern Cross Quilt stamp set and the coordinating cover plate to create this pattern. After I stamped the image, I went back in with a cover plate, laid it over the top, and ran it through my machine as though I was embossing. And the result is this amazing texture. You can see it on the back side a lot easier than on the front side. But the benefit to the recipient is that this card feels really cool to touch. It's almost like a store-bought card that's got that added embossing detail. So that's the look that we're going for. And you can do this with cover plates or with any stamp set and coordinating die. For today, we're going to use butterflies, but you can see that it was very easy to do with a cutting plate as well, or a cover plate. So I'm excited to see what you all will come up with. So to get started, I've got a piece of Stamper Select white cardstock that I have cut and scored to make a standard A2 sized card. And I'm going to start by stamping the sentiment. I am using the Life is Beautiful stamp set. This set is one of those sets that I don't think I'll be able to put down for a little while because I really like it. So I'm using Smoky Shadow ink so that the sentiment will really stand out. And I've got this big, the big word beautiful on a grid block. And that's so that I can get it lined up nice and straight. I'll just wipe that off with a wet wipe and then stamp it off on some scratch paper. And now I'm going to add a couple of small words. I've got wishing you a and birthday. We'll add these on the top and bottom here. Okay. I like to place the sentiment first, and that way it makes it a lot easier to just arrange the butterflies around the sentiment, but the sentiment is the main thing that needs to go exactly where I want it to go. So once that's placed, then everything else is just pretty easy, really. It's a lot more freeform. Part of this first butterfly image is going to overlap the sentiment. So I've chosen Summer Sunrise ink to stamp this first butterfly in, and that way when it overlaps the sentiment, the sentiment's not going to be covered up. There's our first butterfly. Next, I'm going to stamp one in Hawaiian Shores. Now I've got some New Leaf ink. Really, I only need to ink the bottom part of the butterfly this time because that's the only thing that's going to be seen on the card. And one more, this time Raspberry Fizz. And this time, pretty much just the top portion of the butterfly is going to show. Okay, so already, as you can see, we've created a really beautiful card. Super simple, one layer that you could easily pop in the mail. But to add a great detail, we're going to now emboss or deboss, as the case may be, the butterfly right over the top of our stamped image. So to do this, you're going to want to kind of shift your die back and forth a little bit till you make sure you've got it centered all the way around. Obviously, you can't know exactly, but you just want it to be basically in the the general vicinity of that butterfly, and it's going to come out really pretty. So I'm going to run this through my Vagabond, and you will use whatever die cutting machine you have, but in the case of the Vagabond, you're going to use the multi-purpose platform, followed by a cutting plate, followed by the tan and vanilla mats. And I will tell you a tiny little tip here. For whatever reason, I feel like if I cut into or emboss into the tan mat instead of the vanilla mat, I think it gets a little bit crisper impression without the cardstock sort of cracking as much, if that makes any sense. So you can do it whichever way you would prefer, but I'm going to put tan mat up, cardstock, butterfly die over the top, and then the last cutting plate will go over the top of that. I'll run this through my Vagabond. When I take it out, I'll do it again over each butterfly. So 4 times I'm going to reposition the butterfly die and run this through the Vagabond. And after I do that, I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I'm back and I have embossed, I don't know if you can see the embossed, or the debossing rather, on the butterflies. I'll show you the inside. You can see how they're all very detailed. So that means that they feel really, like you can really feel all that debossing. So that's what we're going for. One other little tip I will tell you, the more times you run this cardstock through your machine with a die in one place or another, the more it sort of stretches out your cardstock and makes it want to warp a little bit. I don't know if you can see that little bit of a warp there. So you're going to have best results with larger dies. Anything this size or bigger, or in the case of a cover plate, I had no warping whatsoever because it was one pass through the machine with one large die, and that was it. So just keep that in mind when you're selecting what die you're going to use. If you have something that's like a whole bunch of a very small die, you're probably going to end up with quite a bit of warping on your cardstock. So just keep that in mind, and I cannot wait to see what you come up with.
Okay, if you'd like to play along with this week's challenge, just head over to Nicole Hetty's blog, where you can leave a link to your project so we can all see what you came up with. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day. This has been Dawn McVey with Make It Monday.